Greetings all, Shane Bruce, Restomod Daisy. Hey, we're doing a video today. Guess what? Important news. There is an airgun show in Central Pennsylvania, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, to be exact. As you can see from the flyer there, it's going to be on the 1st of May, the 3rd of May, 3rd of May, 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. One day and one day only. It's going to be air guns, that's springers, pneumatics, CO2, toy guns, and related items. Be advised, no actual firearms will be dealt with or traded at this event. There is an admission, $5. Kids get under 10 get in for free. Once again, Central PA Airgun Show, Carlisle, Pennsylvania, Saturday, May 3rd, 2025. You really ought to go if you've never been to an airgun show.
And for $5, you can't beat it, and it's great free entertainment for your kids.
This is true. Now, what we're doing today is we're working on a subscriber's gun that was sent in for some simple mods. This is a Daisy 1938 ARR. Let's take a look at the roll stamp there. It is a 1938B, but in this particular case, this is an adult Red Ryder. So they've changed the number from 38B Red Ryder to 1938 ARR. As you can see, it's covered with roll stamps. Got roll stamps everywhere. It's got the BB viewport. It's got the elevation adjustable rear sight. Check out the front sight. That is a BB that's been glued to the factory front sight. I think it's pretty keen. All right. Now, it's a nearly new gun. It's running about where you expect it to, about 275, 270. And what the customer wants done is he wants the factory mainspring jerked out of there and his Cobalt 327 super spring installed. He also wants the factory air tube jerked out and this 764 overbore air tube installed. And we're hoping the combination of these two parts will get this gun in the 325 range. Right now, she's running 275. So we're going to take her apart, do the swap, and then see what it shoots. All right, with the Daisy, as always, you got to start at the back end of the gun. Now, what makes this an ARR is that you'll notice the stock is a bit thicker in the wrist, but it's also longer. The length of pull on one of these bad boys is right at 15.5 inches. If you go from the center of the trigger guard to the top of the comb, 15.5. And that's calculated to be about the right size for a 6-foot-tall Daisy shooter. Keep in mind, the guns weren't really built for 6-foot-tall Daisy shooters. They were built for, about a 4-foot-tall Daisy shooter. And if I find my little part tool, there we are, we'll proceed to get the nuts off. All right, step one, jerk off your nuts because they get in the way. Put your parts someplace where you won't lose them. It's always nice to have an uncluttered bench when you start doing this kind of work. That way you don't get confused. Come on out of there. Come on out of there. You don't want to leave. Well, maybe you don't. So we'll screw you back on and then pop you off that way. There we go. And we'll take off the lever because the lever's coming off too. Now, this is the current production gun, so it has the plastic safety trigger that has the red dot, and that's got to come out. So first thing we're going to do is dismount the buttstock. Let's see. You'll need a Phillips screwdriver for this work. So get your Phillips in there, take out the buttstock screw. You can take this out first, or you can take the top stock screw out first. But we're going to go with the stock bolt. That's not a screw because it's got threads, very fine threads. In a minute, we'll be seeing a screw. This is a screw because it just bores down into the wood stock and locks in that way. It doesn't have a threaded metal plate it has to fit through. Because if it had a threaded metal plate, it would be a bolt, not a screw. As you can see, it's a rather lengthy screw, but we'll get it out of there eventually. Now, at this juncture in time, what we're going to do is slide the buttstock out. Because this has a plastic trigger assembly, there is no trigger spring. The springs are all contained in the plastic trigger itself. Take our buttstock, we'll set it off the side, along with our parts. Our next stage is going to be pull the lever. On the adult Red Ryders, Daisy was kind enough to provide the adult shooter with a metal lever as opposed to the rather flimsy plastic lever that comes on the standard Red Ryder. Now, this is a part you can buy directly from Daisy or from a host of providers on the internet. You'll note that it has been liberally coated with a lithium grease. This is to reduce wear and tear, and you'll notice there is some wear and tear on the nose of the lever. It's a little polished. These things do wear out with time, although I don't know if this material is stronger than aluminum. It is some sort of Chinesium, but it's a metal lever. That's a plus. All right, now that we've got that out of the way,
Is Chinesium on the periodic table of elements?
Yes, it's right down there next to unobtainium and several other rare and unique metals. I understand asteroid mining is the key to the future of that. All right, now we're going to extract our plastic safety trigger with the bear trap. This is a fiddly bit, and it's quite irritating because you have to place the safety in the middle position, and then you got to work the trigger out the back. But what you'll run into is, because it's got that bear trap in there, well, this one just came out like a charm. Oh, look at that. Still got the factory grease on the nose of the lever. Now, this device is designed to keep the lever from slamming your fingers if you use improper cocking techniques with your Daisy. Each one of these little nubs here clicks on the back of the plunger tube, so you'll get 7 clicks to know the gun is armed. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Maybe it's 6 clicks, and then the sear goes engaged. So as the plunger goes to the rear, this thing rides it tick, 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 tick until it hits the plunger plate, hits the lever here, pushes it back, and then pops the sear up like so. So that's your 7 clicks. And then when you pull the trigger, the sear disengages. Well, you got to have it fire first. When you pull the trigger, the sear drops, the plunger goes forward, the gun fires. Ah, the miracle. Okay, now we're going to take her over to the vise, and we're going to extract the spring stop and pull the plunger assembly out, because we got to do that to swap the mainspring. So we're going to put her in the vise nice and solid, try and get her level. Now, mainspring compressor tools. A lot's been said about them. There's a guy on eBay that makes these. They work. I would say, unless you really like fiddling around with metal rods, you can make one of yourself. I've got 5 videos on how to make different spring compressors. You'll notice that I use this one. It seems to work the best. So the trick is to get past the plunger back assembly and get some pressure on the mainspring. And this one's being recalcitrant. This is not always an easy breezy job, but we're making progress. Oh, there we go. We've slipped off. Now, I wanted to point out this has got a guard on it. That's important. As you probably noticed just a second ago when we slipped, if you don't have a guard to keep the plunger out of the back of this part of the receiver, you can nick yourself. I've done it plenty of times. All right, let's go. Now, here we go. Press. I'm not getting really good. There we go. You got to get bite on both sides. That's the spring stop. Once you get that out, put it off to the side. Lay your tool down. Get yourself a little screwdriver or something. We're going to extract the plunger. Now I want to point your attention to this little metal plate. Don't think that that is very substantial. It is not. Do not use it as a prying point. If you do, you'll pop it out. It's actually just a piece of folded metal, and the bottom of the trigger rests on that. So it's kind of important. You don't want to disturb it. So reach up in here, if you can see that. Let me get a light for you. That little part right there is the back of the plunger.
Oh, wait till it focuses.
Have you achieved focus?
Not really.
Well, we'll just have to...
I want your shirt.
Well, I'll back out. Any better? Not really. Okay, well, we'll just go with what we got. Anyway, you'll see a plunger plate back there. We're going to engage that with the back of the screwdriver and just kind of slide it out. Now we get to this part, we're not going to mess with that. We're going to go under it. We're not going to use it as a lever. And out she comes. All right, this is, for all intents and purposes, a brand new assembly. It's got very little wear and tear. This is the factory air tube. You'll notice the difference in diameter. The overbore air tube is bored out to 7/64 of an inch. Gives you more volume of air. This is the factory mainspring. The wiper's still intact. It's all in good nick. So this will be a fairly simple job to do. What we're going to do is take our receiver out of the vise. We're going to reach in here and grab our nifty super deluxe. Ooh, here it is. Rex Wasaki Special. This is a mainspring compressor that pros use. As far as I know, there's only like 4 of them on planet Earth, unless somebody out there has built one of these as a result of the last video I did with one. It's a caulk gun, but this one's been hot rodded by Rex Wasaki. He's a frequent poster over at the $15 Daisy thread on the High Road forum, and a fabulous, fabulous technician. Builds some of the finest stuff I've seen. Real meticulous guy. So anyway, to use the mainspring compressor, you take this little piece of steel, and you insert it in the mainspring, like so. Then you take the base of the plunger assembly and you insert it in the compressor, like so. And then, utilizing the miracle of the lever, you push it a couple times. Now, once you've got the spring compressed, you'll notice that the plunger assembly is now available for extraction. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Oh, in a minute. Here we are. Want to get re-maneuvered? Yeah. All right, so what we're going to do to pull the mainspring out is we are going to pull this small pin. You need me to move the vise? This little pin here. That's got to come out. So you just grab this with your pliers, and you'll note that this is the current production flat pin. It's got two flat sides. It's not a round pin like the earlier guns. Place that off the side. Out comes the plunger or the compression cup. This has got a foam wiper seal. They're fairly delicate. You want to be careful with those. What we're going to do now is we're going to extract this air tube from this compression cup. And as you can see, that was a difficult job. So the dimensions on the two air tubes are the same because this is a factory product that's just been overboard. When you reinstall your air tube, you want to look at your oval hole and the hole in the base of the compression cup. You want to just slide it in there and line those two holes up. By eye, it's sufficient. Make sure that you can see through it like that. Now it's ready to be reinstalled. So we put the foam wiper on. We take the pin and you make sure you got your flat sides facing up and down because that's the way it's going to go back inside. Put it back on the plunger assembly. Oops, wait a minute. We skipped a step. We'll pause for a moment. We're going to take our plunger assembly out of the plunger compressor, mainspring compressor. We're going to take the factory mainspring out. See, its cobalt spring is a little longer. The wires are a little heavier. You get more energy with this one than you do with that one. So to mount this, stick it back in and slide it on. Install it in the compressor. Compress the spring. There we go. And there's our hole. So now we take our assembly, we slide it in this rascal, like so. We line them up so we can see the hole, and then slide it in. And you want to make sure that when you get your pin installed, right here you want to be about the same space on either side. You don't want it like that or like that. You want it right there in the middle so the spring has something to bite on. Man, this thing is oily. Okie doke. Now we're going to release the pressure on the mainspring compressor. Bam. We're going to extract our unit. We're going to take our mainspring compressor and put it away. Now we have a modified plunger assembly. We've got a Cobalt 327 super spring in it. We've got the overbore air tube in it. We're going to stick that back in the gun. Now, to stick it back in the gun, we've got to get our super tool out. Once again, so jazzy. I've got one. Do you? I don't think so. And then we put this back in the vise. Now, when you're installing the mainspring, reinstalling your plunger assembly, you're going to need a guide. And that is so that you will be able to get the air tube through the base of the shot tube abutment assembly. So a guide is a piece of wire that fits inside your air tube and extends the length. Now this part, if I had a small diameter camera, we could show it to you, but you're just going to have to take my word for it that we're going to insert this into the base of the abutment assembly. We're going to press it forward. Boy, this thing fits so nice. Maybe I should start working on new guns all the time. Normally I have to fight with the old ones. All right, so you use a probe, a tool of some type, in this case a knitting needle. This is not a spec item, although it's pretty damn nice, works well. And you push that flush, all right? Make sure that you're seated up on the abutment assembly. If you'll bring the camera over here, we'll give you a close view of that. To know that you're at the abutment assembly, the plunger plate where the back end of my piece of wood is where the back of the plunger ought to be. If it's not here, if it's back here, you need to push a little bit more. And it shouldn't certainly go any further forward. That's in the correct position for the next phase, which is recompressing the mainspring and installing the spring block. This little guy needs to look like so. It's got a, right here on the receiver, this little button here, this little bolt is what it's going to lock up against. So it needs to go in, forward, come back so that it rests on that bolt. That's what holds it in place. So let's do the first part, which is compress the mainspring. Now the cobalt spring's punchier than the factory spring, so you're going to have to push a little harder on that. And that could take some energy. Then you slide that up. Whoop. I think we're in the correct position. Let's double check and see. All right, now I need you to come back around over here, and I'm going to show them how to tell if they're in the right spot. All right, you want to shoot right down through there. Here on the back is where we see our spring anchor. I can't get to it, but it should be, what we're looking to show you is, there's the pin right there, and the spring anchor should go around the pin and past it, if you can pick that up on the camera. Probably not.
All right, kind of.
Kind of, sort of. Okay. Anyway, it's got to go over that little pin. That's what holds it in place. So that part of the job is now done. We have installed the Cobalt 327 super spring and an overbore air tube. We've used the factory compression cup, the factory wiper, the factory abutment shot tube assembly. So we pull our guide out. We don't need it anymore. We go back over here. Now this is going to be a little fiddly because we got to get this safety trigger back in the gun. And because of that, this little guy here, that can be a little flaky to do. You've got to get it underneath the back of the plunger assembly. And this can be a fiddly bit. So we may get lucky and have it slide right in, or we may not. Because if you don't get it to slide right in, if you don't get it to go down low enough, well, wait a minute, I have to go back first. Then you'll have an issue with it not clicking. And if it's not clicking, it's not working. So when you go to reinstall, make sure that your safety is in the center position, like so you don't have a bind issue. And you want to hold the trigger back here. You want to make sure that this lever is pointing toward the bottom of the receiver so that you're sure that you get underneath the plunger assembly. Now, the next phase is we want to get this little notch right there on this little lip. So we want to bring it in. And then we got to fiddle with it. Okay, she's seated. If you're correctly positioned, you should be able to see the brass ring there where the bolt goes through. And you can. Excellent. So now we'll drop our bolt through. Bam. We will secure it. Bam. We'll put the lever on. Just line those holes up, drop that in. And we're going to give her a test run and see if it clicks. We don't need to put the buttstock on if it doesn't click. If it doesn't click, we got to go back and do it again. If it clicks, we put the buttstock on. So there you go. And because the buttstock doesn't have a trigger return spring, it's a self-contained unit, we'll put it in shoot mode. We'll cock it. It clicks. We'll go over to our handy-dandy cardboard test firing device, and yep, it shoots. All right. So what we're going to do now, kids, is slap it back together real quick. Go over to the chronograph and see if we've got improved velocity. Hopefully so. Hopefully substantially better. I have to say, this has gone a lot smoother than I thought it would go. So install the stock bolt and go get the top stock screw. I may have to wiggle that around a little bit to get that hole in the correct spot. There we go. Run that down. And then we'll head over to the chronograph and see how much chrono we are graphing. All right. Well, let's see. We're in fire condition. Let's step over to the chrono and fire it up. So the chronograph can be used indoors, but you need to go get yourself an incandescent light bulb, like 200 watts. The LED light bulbs don't register with the machine. Then you let it go through its process. And let's see what, let's bang off a round or two and see what she does. So, yeah, get a shot of that. Very impressive. We went from 275 to 366. That puts this gun in Super Thumper Land. Let's see if we can do it twice. Here we go. 256. Oh, excuse me, 356. Let's see if we get back up to the 360s. 361. All right, we're going to do 5 rounds. I got a feeling it's, well, that's a duplicator. One more. Yeah, okay. Everything's over 350. This is now a Restomod certified Super Thumper. 1938 RR Red Ryder. Nice gun. All right, kids, that's all we've got for you today. That's just how long it takes to do this if you've got all the stuff you want. And you might find components to do this with at the Central PA Airgun Show in Carlisle, Pennsylvania on the 3rd of May, 2025. If you've never been to an airgun show, believe me, they're not that common anymore. This one, if you're in the area, you should make an effort to be there. That's all we got for you today, kids. This is Restomod Daisy signing off.